Welcome to the Education Marketing Leader podcast with Chris Raposo. If you're looking to dive into the latest industry insights, draw inspiration from education success stories, or just want to sharpen your marketing skills, you're in the right place. Here, we bring you a diverse range of voices from experts and leaders in the field, offering you a unique blend of professional development and practical strategies. Whether you want to understand your audience better, stay updated with the latest tech trends in marketing, or expand your professional network, we've got you covered. So while you're driving on your morning commute or winding down after a busy day, let's explore the dynamic world of education marketing together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Education Marketing Leader with Chris Raposo. Today, my guest is joining me from Oregon. His name is Evan Goldstein, and he is the co-founder of Quadzio. Evan, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you. It's 6:45 a.m. where Evan lives right now, so kudos to you for being up at this hour. And we're going to talk a little bit about your company that you founded just recently with your brother, and you're 15 years old, which is remarkable, and your brother is a freshman at, is it Penn State?
The University of Pennsylvania. So
very good,
yes.
Good, awesome, man. Well, you guys are crushing it already. So we're talking about what students really want from the college search, because you both are going through those pain points. You've been going through the pain points, and that which led to the company that you founded. So, Evan, again, welcome. I love that you're joining us while you're still in high school, which is again really impressive. But because you live in an experience that most higher ed marketers are trying to understand from the outside, I wanted to have you on the show. So what's been one of the most confusing or frustrating parts of the college search process from your point of view and from the students you talk to at Quadzio?
I mean, yeah, from my point of view, I'm pretty much going to be starting this process at the end of this year. I'll really start getting into it with my junior year next year, which is when college situation's really going to heat up a little bit. But a lot of it was based off my brother's experience. And for him, he went on a lot of college tours, and we'll get into all of that later. But when I actually went on many of these tours with him, and the college touring process is not as good as you might think it would be, right? Because I remember when I was looking at different high schools, I think actually the process of finding your high school, at least from my experience, was amazing. You get a one-on-one tour. There's all these open houses. You get student panels. I feel like the whole process, at least in my end, was super easy. I felt super comfortable with my decision. But on the other hand, when I was visiting colleges with my brother, which arguably is a much bigger decision, right? Because it's where you're going to spend your next 4 years in college, sets out your whole life, right? And these college tours is you get to see the history of the school, you get to see the buildings, but based off many of those tours I went on with my brother, I would have no clue what my everyday life would be like on that campus if I went there, just based off that tour. And since you're in such a big group, it's so awkward. You're hesitant to ask any questions. It's just, the experience is not as good as it could be, and I think that was definitely a pain point for my brother. And the many people I've talked to through Quadzio, they felt very similar things.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now tell me a little bit about that process, because you are from Oregon. Your brother ends up at the University of Pennsylvania. You toured different schools. That's a big investment in and of itself to go to those schools. What separated the cream from the crop that he chose those schools to visit?
Yeah, I mean, initially we toured basically, schools in our area, U of O, Oregon State, UW, all the schools in our area. But when he started to really look at, what is he looking in the college, what is he interested in major-wise, we decided him and my dad and my mom, they went on tours to University of Pennsylvania, like we mentioned where he's at. A lot of time, I remember with him, I went to Miami, Tulane. But I think what really separated for him is when he actually knew what he was going to have, what his life would be like at that campus, I think he really felt more comfortable in that decision. He actually did an early decision to UPenn, which I think even shows more of his level of comfort. And at University of Pennsylvania, he happened to find a buddy who he was on the mock trial team with the year before, who was now at UPenn. And he basically showed him his dorm room, showed him, hey, come in a classroom with me. Here's what it's going to be like. Here's the dining halls. So my brother, Jack, he was able to really have a better like knowledge really of, hey, if I went to UPenn, what would I even be doing every day? What's my class schedule like? Whereas when we went to UW, he could tell you the history of all the buildings and basically, everything about UW that is interesting maybe, but he couldn't tell you what he'd be doing Monday through Sunday every day at UW. So I think what really separated was like how comfortable he felt, within that school, what his daily schedule would be like, things like that.
Yeah, personalization for the win to have that one-on-one with that buddy of his. Was it a friend from Oregon, or how did he come about meeting that person to show him around like that?
Yeah, no, it was a friend from his mock trial team who went to our same high school, Jesuit High School. So he'd known him prior. They obviously were not like super best buddies, but he knew him well enough to reach out. And he actually did that same playbook at Syracuse, somebody from our high school. And then he also got connected with somebody who he'd actually never met with at Wisconsin, but it was through a friend of a friend. And he was 3 for 3, same experience. And if you asked him, those were probably his 3 top choices, just because he felt that much more comfortable going to any of those universities.
Yeah, that's the importance of having influencers on your campus, because at the end, that person, that mock trial buddy that he wasn't really that connected to, may have been one of the moving forces to get him to the University of Pennsylvania in the end. So that's a big insight there. So let's talk about rankings in social media. Are they really as important as schools would like to believe they are when it comes to recruiting students?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I went on my Instagram right now, it would probably be anything from college football Instagram reels to college ranking, because it's everywhere you go. There is rankings for every which thing, and here's what schools in whatever the Southeast have the most interesting majors, and like there are so many different rankings that you see. I mean, yeah, it definitely affects you. Like when people ask me, like, Evan, what's your dream school? I am solely basing off rankings that I see on Instagram and, Forbes, US News, all of that, but there's no way for me to actually verify any of that. So I would say, like, in terms of especially as sophomores and juniors, like, just even thinking about, hey, what schools should I look at? What are my dream schools? I think it's solely based off rankings, which is crazy, but I don't think you actually can know, like, what schools do you truly want to go to until you either talk to somebody who's there, maybe do a college visit, but even, like, online visits give you a very similar opportunity.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into the show today. I hope you enjoyed so far. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast, but we're just overwhelmed by the sheer amount of work that goes into it? I get it. After producing over 100 episodes for the Education Marketing Leader, there's a lot of time that goes into this, time that most of us simply don't have. And that's where the Education Marketing Leader podcast production service comes into play. Me and my team will take care of the heavy lifting, from scripting, strategy, editing to promoting. All you have to do is show up, record your episode, share your expertise, connect with your audience, and build your personal brand. So if you've been sitting on a podcast idea, today is the time to act. Reach out to me via DM on LinkedIn and we'll get you started. And now, back to the episode. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I've watched a lot of college football as well. When I made a decision to go to school, I was in Florida at the time. So you got Florida State, you got University of Florida, University of Miami, you have South Florida, you got Central Florida, all these football schools. But the Gator Nation was the one that led the charge from me, Tebow time, back in the day.
There we go.
And I was like, well, if I can get into UF, man, I'm going into UF, and that's what I did, and I'm very proud of that school. So definitely the whole athletics and the hype around that got me there, and that worked for me. So it depends on who you are, right?
Yeah.
But so when you talked about Instagram a little bit, when you scroll through Instagram, through social media, and things pop up, so we always talk about on this podcast, and I like to talk about it as well, like day in the life vlogs or Instagram reels. What you can pick that out probably. What feels real and what feels staged when you see those videos?
I mean, in terms of like the day in the lives, honestly, a lot of it, there's obviously some parts that are staged, right? It's never like, here's me in a random moment. There's always some part of it that's like, all right, I'm going to put my phone, because we've even filmed day in the lives of like, hey, here's a day in the life of me touring Oregon, just random stuff for content. And obviously every part of it's filmed, like, hey, let me put my camera here and I'm going to wake up. So there's always parts of it that are staged, but I think you can definitely kind of tell, here's at what, my actual day in the life is, and here's what, because the things that like you might not always see in a day in life is like, here's me eating, here's me, doing something that you might not expect. A lot of the day in the lives you can just tell are like pure action. And so in those day in the lives, in those vlogs, when it's like, hey, here's me getting my meal at UVO, here's me, on the 2.5 hour drive up, those are things that kind of separate, I think, ones that are like super staged to ones that are like authentic day in the life, which is kind of the purpose, of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's good insight as well. Got any recommendation on how to make it more authentic? Like leave the script thing up to the student who does the video and not be too involved. I mean, obviously you got to have a little bit of an oversight there, what they're saying, but how would you advise higher ed marketers to go about those day in the life videos?
I mean, honestly, I think the best moments are like spontaneous moments that come up in the day in the life. So like, yes, there's moments that you want to have like that, sequential thing. You wake up, you drive up to whatever. But like I remember when I did our day in the life of touring Oregon, the most exciting part was when we literally just had cameras rolling, and then Dan Lanning, who's the Oregon head football coach, walks across right in front of us, and then like you basically see that video of me running up to Dan Lanning. So I think just like honestly having cameras rolling, because you never know what might happen, and those spontaneous moments when it's like the raw emotion of me just like seeing my hero right there, running to get a picture. So just always having cameras rolling, I'd say for me is a super important part of those day in the lives, because it shows that raw emotion that you wouldn't see if it's just like, okay, now we're going to turn on the cameras because Evan has a picture with Dan Lanning. Just like, I would say always having cameras rolling is super important.
That's right. And you see the authentic and the real reaction by Dan Lanning, right? How did he react? Because if he knows he's going to be on camera, it's going to be a different side of him than if he's like, you catch him out of the blue and you run up to him, right? So that's authenticity right there and candidness. So that's really important as well. And that's what makes it real and builds the trust there. But you said that Quadzio started from frustration watching your brother and his friends stress over college apps, trying to build its list based on rankings, reels instead of actual insights. Can you walk us through that moment when you and Jack decided, let's fix this?
I think one of the big moments was at the University of Washington, which, by the way, is a beautiful campus. I mean, we never actually got to go inside the buildings, but just based off the outside, beautiful buildings. I'm not a huge UW fan just because University of Oregon, but still, I was blown away. It was a beautiful campus. We had a family that had gone there. And when on that tour, basically, we were in a huge group of kids. I was either an 8th grade or freshman, so I was still like, I wasn't like laser focused into like, hey, let me learn every piece of information that I can. But for my brother, this is prime time. He's looking at one of his top schools. And while we did get to see the outside of the buildings, we got to learn about the history of the school. Here's how many students go to the football games, all of that. And I felt the same thing even as an 8th grader who wasn't fully invested. Like, I would have no clue, like I said previously, if I went to UW, what would I be doing every day? And my brother had the same experience. Like, out of that, I remember we were all talking after that tour, and he was like, it's a beautiful campus, but I have no clue what I would even be doing there. How many people actually do my major? They say Greek life's, like every other school, but what does that even mean, right? And then, like I was saying earlier, like when he went to Wisconsin, when he went to Syracuse, UPenn, he could meet up with somebody who maybe he did know them, but in the case of the Wisconsin kid, it was a friend of the friend who he was connected with. He had never met before, and he was able to meet up with him, go to a class, see what life at Wisconsin would have actually been like. And I think for him, that was the moment of like, there's something here, because my top 3 schools are the 3 schools that I was able to meet up with somebody at. And I know buddies that have had the same experience. Why is there nothing like this? And because there's not, let's go start something.
That's right. Hey, that's really good, man. Your parents must have raised you well to see the pain point, see a need in the market, and go after it. So kudos to your parents.
Now, my dad's probably out there listening, but yes, listening to how I built this, watching Shark Tank as a kid, all those things just been drilled into our brains. So yes, we are definitely forward thinkers like that. Always, here's an issue, why not go fix it?
And as a side note, UW, University of Washington?
Yes.
That's right. Okay. For anybody who does not know and who's not into football. So just want to clarify that. So you talked about big cultural shift as well, that for your generation, and you just said that UW, super beautiful campus, but in your case, vibe beats prestige. Tell me more about that. What do you students mean when they say a school feels real?
I mean, I really do think a big part of that, unfortunately, actually is being there being able to go to the campus, which, in the case of if you were going out to UPenn, especially from Portland, Oregon, getting to UPenn, it's not easy, right? So I think being on campus is actually a big thing, because you get to see like students walking around, students on the quad. On the Saturdays, what are students doing? Is there like a tailgating situation? So I think a big part of that is like being on campus, being in person. But even if you can't, fly out from coast to coast. I think talking to somebody who can tell you about that personal experience, that, as you say, like the vibe on campus, I think that's huge, right? Because I think prestige in my mind is everything I see on Instagram, everything I see on the rankings, and it's just like if you ask me like dream schools, right? I would say Duke, Michigan, all those schools that I just see at the top of rankings. I've been to UMich, but like Duke, I've never stepped foot there. I don't know what the vibe on campus is really like. So I think a big thing of that is actually like being there on a Saturday, right? What's the tailgating scene like? Being there on like a Tuesday afternoon. Are students, studying in the library? Are they, getting ready for a big test? Like, what's the vibe on campus? So I think just either talking to somebody who's been there or going there yourself in the middle of like either an average day or like if you're going to UMich for the football Saturdays, what's it actually like, inside the big house on a Saturday? So I think either having that connection or being able to, really, live it for yourself, I think is really crucial to understanding what that vibe is.
Tell me a little bit about safety concerns as well. As a parent, it's like number one priority for me. If I send my kid to college, like, are they going to be safe there at the football game at night when they walk to campus? What's that like for prospective students?
I mean, from what I would say, especially with my brother going to UPenn, so he was like talking to other students about talking to adults about, hey, here's some advice going to UPenn. But just from everyone I've talked to, even like me personally, what would I be, curious about going to a college? I think even if you were to go on your tour, there's still only so much you can understand about the safety. So I think at that point, it's about having that connection with somebody who's been there, that sophomore, junior. And that's why having that Quadzio connection in a sense is super important because especially from Portland to UPenn, there's not a whole lot of people that are traveling from coast to coast. So I think knowing somebody who's been there, even if they're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, whatever it is, right? Somebody who can like tell you like that authentic experience, like, hey, it's super safe as long as you follow these guidelines. I think that's also super comforting for parents who are maybe a little bit on edge because there's the brochures that they can only tell you so much. But when you can have that authentic connection, that's when they can give you like the true insights. You're not afraid to ask those questions,
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. Now, you said earlier at the college tours, it can feel a little bit awkward. And as a guy, you walk in there, you're probably not going to ask about safety because you want to look tough, right? I'm not scared of anything. But what are students really asking ambassadors on Quadzio that they wouldn't ask on a regular college tour?
Yeah, I mean, for Quadzio, we're actually doing our official launch in about 2 weeks from today. So we haven't actually been able to see, like, hey, in those group chats, like, what are the authentic conversations? But we've actually had many high school students that know that we're starting with Quadzio, basically texting us saying, hey, I'm going up to UW. Do you have anybody who I can I'm going like to University of Washington for a tour. Is there anybody who's either there or who I can text and ask questions? And those big questions that we're actually expecting are things like, as you said, like safety. Is safety actually a concern on campus? I think food's a big one. Like, hey, what's food on campus? Because a lot of these schools have like bad reps, good reps about maybe it's food, maybe it's like campus atmosphere, maybe it's Greek life. And those brochures, those college tours are only going to give you so much of that, pure clarity of what it really is. So I would say a big thing that we found is like those questions that you probably are scared to ask on the tour, like you mentioned, the safety, the food, things that maybe not like throwing shade on the other schools that they're visiting, but like wanting to know what's it actually going to be like on this campus. And I think that's probably some of the major questions that you've already highlighted.
Yeah. What about academics versus a day in the life? Like just purely storytelling aspect of, user-generated content versus academic polished content. Are students like you, when you're going into looking for, I mean, what do you want to major in?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say sports management right now is like my dream major, but I'm also super interested in business. But I'd say sports management right now. But obviously, as a sophomore, a lot can change in 2 years and even beyond that. But yeah, I'd say probably sports management right now.
So when you look at it, are you looking for academic prestige or are you looking for how you're going about your day-to-day, like day-in-the-life stuff for social media marketing efforts?
Yeah, I mean, as a student right now, as a sophomore, really the only thing I've access to is top sports management schools, and it really that's all I have, right? Because I haven't been able to actually go on campus. I was lucky enough to go to the University of Michigan for a football game, but that's only like a one-day experience. So I haven't actually been able to step foot on any of those like dream, amazing schools of mine that are, in the sports management industry. But I mean, I would say knowing what the day in the life is like is huge because obviously I really care about like what are the classes like, what are the teachers like, and I think it really does depend on the student. Some students care about that a lot, others not so much. But I think for me, knowing what the teachers are like, knowing what like the connection is between a professor and a teacher is super important. But I think also understanding like Am I going to have one class a day? Am I going to have 3 classes a day? Because as a high schooler, I would say I know more than the average person just because, one, having conversations with people, and two, I have a brother who's a freshman there who calls me a lot, so I kind of understand what, his daily schedule really is like. But I think understanding, like, what do you do on weekends? What's there to do when you not have a class? Am I going to have classes every day? Like, all that stuff, which kind of falls under the day in the life category.
Right.
Those rankings are not going to tell you any of that. So I think being able to understand that in some other mode, whether it's talking to somebody, whether it's having like a brother that goes there, a sibling that goes there, whatever it is, I think really separates it from understanding like the student to teacher ratio to understanding like everything about the academics, everything about the vibe on campus.
Yeah. Another thing I like about you is that you're posting on LinkedIn frequently, which is another thing that sets you apart from your peers. So one of your recent posts that really stuck with me was you were talking about another high schooler, and you realized that sometimes students just need to talk to someone going through the same thing. How has that shaped what you're building next at Quadzio?
I mean, yeah, everything we're trying to build at Quadzio is really being that bridge between the high schooler and the college kid, because we want to create that authentic experience or that authentic connection, really, that you wouldn't be able to find with any other platform. Because a lot of times, like maybe if I'm looking for somebody who goes to the University of Oregon, because I'm in the area, it probably might be a little bit easier for me to find somebody that I know, whether it's through my high school, friend of a friend, whatever it is. But for someone like my brother who was going out to UPenn or going to Syracuse, Miami, for the most likely, he would have no clue anybody who goes there. So the idea of Quadzio is we want to have that connection. Somebody who's basically, if I'm trying to, meet up with somebody who goes to Duke, I'm talking with somebody who is basically living my dream right now at Duke, where I ideally want to be in 2 years. So I think we're trying to build our company around that connection, that authenticity, that layer of trust. And I think that's a big thing because in this college process, trust is pretty much everything, right? So I think being able to create that layer of trust between the high schooler and the college kid who maybe the idea is maybe they went to the same high school, but they just didn't know each other. Maybe they're from the same area. Maybe they're in the same like intended major, but being able to create that layer of trust, especially between two people that have most likely never met each other, is super important.
Yeah, it's like the saying goes, I think it was Jim Rohn, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with, and you're already looking to connect with those people that are in the position that you want to be in. Like at Duke, for example, is huge, right? And then having the ability to do that through your platform is another major driving point that's really important for your target audience and also for the people that are marketing to that audience, which are Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Now, you've built a podcast, you've written a book, and now you co-founded a company all before most people get their driver's license. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about leadership and purpose from these experiences so far?
Well, first off, Chris, I have my driver's test in, I believe, 12 days. So hopefully I can pass that, make the parents happy. But yeah, beyond that, I'd say the big thing I've learned is like understanding that like there's going to be roads, there's going to be bumps in the road. Like things are going to happen, right? Not everything's going to go perfect, like easy sailing. We've learned that by, having this company, like we've started building it now for months now. A lot of things are going to happen. I remember the first night we launched our business, and then the map, which is kind of the interactive way to see, who's on Quadzio, is shut down. So, like, that was, like, the first big, like, hey, this is not going to be so easy. The first month, maybe it was easier, and it's only gotten harder from there, right? Things are going to happen, and I think understanding that, like, taking that as a growth opportunity, like, hey, we learn now, why something may malfunction on the website. We've learned that, using this specific Instagram post style is not going to get good likes, right? So I think understanding that there's going to be bumps in the road, using that as a growth opportunity and to kind of, accept that mistake. But we always say, with my dad, my brother, fail and fail fast, because once you can learn from that, then it really gives you that opportunity to, not make that mistake as often, but also like being able to grow for it and do great things from there.
Yeah, and that failure is an opportunity to learn as well, right? And to build resilience, to not give up at the first bump in the road, because those are going to come regardless, whatever you do in the future. I mean, you're way ahead of yourself, which is really cool, man. I can't wait to see where the future takes you with Quadzio and with the rest of your life, because I'll be sure to follow you on LinkedIn if you want to stick around on that platform to see what's up for the next, 5-10 years. So really excited for your future. I think you have a bright one ahead of you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So, what do you want to? You and your brother. Where do you want to take Quadzio next? What's your vision for how this changed to college search experience over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the dream of Quadzio is making the entire college search process easier, better, more authentic, more trustworthy, right? So right now, at first look, yeah, Quadzios, we're helping people one-on-one college tours, but we're also expanding that into, hey, you could hop on a Zoom call with somebody. You can see it like somebody's essay, so you can see like the activities they did, other activities that they did that, got them into that university. And then so once you look at their supplementals, once you look at, the tone they used to write their essay, then from there you can actually do a Zoom meeting with them. And then actually if you're going to that university, you can talk with them. So we've kind of want to build in that layer of like, we want to be that one-stop shopping for making the college touring experience, not the college touring really, just everything about the college search process easier, because right now it's so hard and there's no reason it should be. So we just want to make the whole process easier. But in addition to that, we're just trying to make it like, in terms of like content, we're trying to provide all that content from whether it's, here's the day in the life as a, econ major at the University of Pennsylvania, right? And in addition to that, we're also starting our first podcast on the Quad, which is basically, there's going to be 2 segments to it. The first segment is talking to college kids across all different universities. And the second aspect of it is, let's say we talk to a kid at the University of Michigan who's on the golf team. Then we can talk to college admissions professionals about UMich, here's how the supplementals have changed, and here's how maybe you can answer these supplementals. Or we talk to a golfer at the University of Michigan, here's how, in terms of applications, here's how it's different for an athlete than someone who's going through, the typical admissions process and all of that. So that's kind of supposed to be our way of like providing that insight to the high school kids, because now we have all these ambassadors, we have all these college kids. We've had 320 college kids sign up, and we haven't even fully launched the platform yet. So the idea behind On the Quad is we have all these college kids. Why not, have them on the show, talk about their experience, their life on campus, for the high schoolers to really get, like we were talking earlier, that day in the life experience of, if I went to UMich, maybe I'm not even going to Ann Arbor to see what UMich is like, but now I can really understand, like, what would it be like every day at the University of Michigan?
Very good. Let's tell us a little bit more about Quadzio. If I forgot anything to ask you, like how can people find it? If I have a parent listening of a potential college student, how can they find it? How can they get involved? How can they be a part of that? And tell me a little bit about you and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so by the time this episode drops, I'm expecting that Quadzio will have been launched. So we're expecting a launch from today. About 2 weeks, I'd say, is our estimated launch date. But I'd say for the process of high school kids is you sign up, you put in like your interests and all of that, basically things that make it easier for you to have a connection with somebody, whether it's through you guys both did high school sports, you guys were both on the mock trial team, both student government, whatever, is just to create that more of that trust layer. But the idea for high school kids is maybe you're looking to go to a college and you want to meet up with somebody there. Because let's say, like in our case, we live in Portland, Oregon, but we want to do a tour at the University of Miami and we know nobody there. Through Quadzio, you can, have a connection with somebody. Maybe it's because they went to our high school, went to, the hometown I'm at. Maybe it's just somebody from a major, but being able to have that connection with somebody. So if you're a high schooler and you're going on a college tour, you want to find somebody you can have a connection with, you can talk to on campus. Maybe you're not even going there, but you want to have a Zoom meeting with them. You can use Quadzio, quadzio.com, and that's where you can actually have that authentic connection with that student and really feel, more confident about, before you make that major decision of committing to a college, you have that layer of confidence of knowing if you went to that university, what would your day on the life really be like at that school? Would you feel comfortable? Does that vibe kind of match what you're looking for in a college? And in terms of where you can find us, on our LinkedIn, as you mentioned, we're doing a lot of posts. Our Quadzio LinkedIn, I'd say, is a big spot to find us. And also, if you're more of an Instagram person, we do a lot of content on Instagram as well. At Quadzio Official is our Instagram. And then also for the new podcast on the Quad Pod is the Quadzio, or is the podcast username rather for Instagram. So either of those ways, you can find a lot of content about really everything we're doing with Quadzio to the podcast, all things in between.
Very good. Evan Goldstein, everybody. Remember the name. Evan, it was wonderful having you on the show, man. You did such a good job, and I'm really proud of you.
I had a lot of fun, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on.
You bet. Take care, my friend.
Thank you as well.
And that's a wrap for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Education Marketing Leader Podcast this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and your network. And if you ever thought about starting your own podcast, now that you listen to one and you got inspired, reach out to me via DM. We'd love to help you launch your own. We'll take care of everything for you, the scripting, the strategy, the editing, the distribution. All you have to do is show up, connect with your audience and build your personal brand. So if you're ready for it, let's chat. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time at the Education Marketing Leader Podcast. Take care, friends.